Good afternoon. My name is Ahmad and I'm working as technology specialist at Revive Medical Technologies. So today is second session of knowledge transfer session, and today topic name is risk management of medical devices. So what is the risk when we talk about a medical device? So risk is any uncertain event or condition which can cause hazard or negative impact to the device or the patient. It can also compromise the intended use of the device. Like, for example, if we talk about the active medical devices, a power can go off anytime, and it can hamper the functionality of the device, by switching off the device. So these devices should have the battery backup system. Same as the case when we talk about body implants. Body can they always react with these implants. So these implants should be biocompatible as well. So what is the risk management and how do we do it? So the risk management is about the identification of the risk and the mitigation of those risks. So the purpose of the risk management activity lists the identification of risks, the evaluation of the risk control measures, the residual risk evaluation, and reporting the risk management the activity. So, what are the general requirements for making the risk management plan? First of all, we should have we have to establish the risk management activities, what activities are we going to perform in the risk management process. The recruitment of the risk management team and assigning roles and responsibilities to them. And then there is describing the criteria and the procedure for the risk identification. And then there is the describing the criteria for the risk analysis and evaluation and assessment. After that, describing the criteria for risk control measures, like how we like how will we uh, uh, plan our risk control measures, and how will we implement them for controlling the impact of risk on our device or patient. And then last step is the verification of the risk control measures and the hazard benefit analysis of the risk management, of the risk control measure. So for the establishment of these risk management activities, we should know when will we be the performing the risk management process. So some of the general scenarios are when there is new product development or change in some the existing product. Or there is change in the technology of the production, or change in management system, or the quality plan. Or there is some medical device alert from the competent authority, yeah, or there is some the incident reported from the end user, or there is some change in the regulation from the regulatory authority. The next step is to recruit the team for the risk management process and assigning them roles and responsibilities. Few of the major posts that we need for the risk management process is the risk manager, the person that will lead the whole process, and will be assigning the roles to the team beneath him or her. Second is personnel for the risk the identification, and the third is prepare a team for the risk evaluation, and the fourth is personnel for the risk control measure, which can be the design team as well. Uh, then we should describe the process or the criteria for the risk identification. Uh, uh, the products. So in this step, we will uh, uh, announce the product cycle yeah, on which risk will be, the risk management process will be the carried out, and the techniques, and we will also plan the techniques for the identification of of the risk. Some of the known techniques for the risk identification are fault tree analysis, failure mode effect analysis, and preliminary hazard analysis.
So, when we talk about describing the criteria for risk evaluation and risk assessment, we assess the risk via the probability of the occurrence and the severity of the impact of the risk. For calculating this factor, we take the product of the probability of the occurrence of the risk and the severity of the impact of that risk. So, for example, we have a table here for the scoring of the probability and severity. Like if the identified risk is improbable, or we can say it doesn't occur too much, then the score to that risk is one. And if the risk is remote, then the score is 2. And if the risk occurs too occasional, then we assign its score as 3. And same is the case if the risk occur too much, then we assign its risk probability factor as 4. Now, similarly, we assign the risk factor number 5, the probability factor 5, if the risk is occurring frequently in its usage. Similarly, when we talk about the impact of the risk on the health of the patient or the device, we assign the same scores to the impact of that risk. Like if the impact is very minute and we can neglect it, then we assign its number as 1. If the hazard caused by that is very low, or you can say the marginal, then we assign the score to the risk factor severity as 2. And if the impact of that risk is critical, and it can affect the patient's the condition, then we assign the severity factor as 3. And similarly, if the impact of the risk is serious, then we assign the severity factor as 4. And similarly, we assign the risk factor severity index 5 if the risk is dangerous. So after assigning the scores to the probability of the risk and the impact or the severity of that risk, we calculate the risk factor of the risk. For example, if we have the risk factor from 1 to 20, then we have to decide on which risk we will perform the risk control measures, and which risk we don't need to apply any risk control measure. For example, uh, we set our boundary at uh, uh, the risk level 4, for example. Then we don't need to apply the risk control measure on the risk whose risk factor is from 0 from 1 to sorry from 1 to 4. And then there is having the risk control factor. uh, there is there is having the risk factor more than 4, like 5, 6, up to 20, we will apply the risk control measure. So after finding out the risk on which we have to perform the risk control measure, we will devise a method for applying the risk control measures, or devising some solution for them. So, for example, there are usually three ways that we use for getting those risk control measures. For example, we introduce safety features in the design of the device, or we can introduce some protective measure in the medical device itself, or in the development process. Like, for example, we will introduce the alarms in some cases in the medical device, to which to those risks which we cannot uh, you know, control via design of the medical device. And then the third option is to mention that risk in instruction for use of the device, or operating manual of that device. So after devising the risk control measures of each risk, having a risk factor more than 4, we will have to verify that the risk control measures are performing well, and mitigating those risks that we have, mentioned out before the early. So there are three methods for the verification of the risk control measures, which includes the inspection of the device, the in-house testing and validation of the device, and the assessment and evaluation of the risk control measures. For example, if we have certain risk in the device, for which we have a device risk control measure. We will test the device in those circumstances in which there is a high chance of occurring that risk again. If the device has getting the risk itself, then we will say that the risk control measure is performing well. Similarly, we will also test those risk control measures applied on the device during the in-house testing and validation processes. Yeah, in the last, we will also see the residual risk and that is left behind by those risk control measures that is not, catered by the risk control measure. We will have to see that if the residual risk is sufficient, we will have to see that if the residual risk is minor, then we don't need have to perform the risk control measures process again. Yeah, if the residual risk is not, minor and causing the hazard to the patient, and the device again, and then we will have to perform the risk control measure process again. So after performing the risk control measures, we will see the hazard benefit analysis of the risk control measures. Yeah, or we will see the residual risk that is left behind after risk control measures. Yeah, if the residual risk is uh, reduced as far as possible, then we don't need to apply any the risk control measure. We only have to disclose that those residual risks in the documentation of the device. Yeah, if the residual risk is not reduced as far as possible, then we will have to perform risk control measures process again for that risk. So when we perform the residual risk evaluation, or the hazard benefit yeah, analysis, we will see three kind of options here. First is benefit is more than the risk after the implementation of risk control measure. Then we will say that the risk control measures are performing well. If the risk control measure created new risk which might cause damage to the device or the patient, then we will have to perform the risk control measure for that residual risk. And if the risk control measure are not performing well, and then the benefit will not be sufficient as compared to the risk, and then we will have to perform the risk control measures process of their risk again. So the whole process of risk management for the medical devices is based on the ISO 14971 standard, which has six parts named as the risk management plan, risk assessment, risk control, evaluation of overall residual risk, risk management review, and production and post-production risk. Yes, the data that we just discussed is, extracted from this ISO 14971 standard, and every medical device has to comply with this standard before going into commercialization stage. So this was all for this knowledge transfer session. We will meet again yeah, in next session with more yeah, informative topics. Thank you.